The room has gone quiet. The other person is gone. The door has closed. The cup on the table has stopped steaming. The light has not changed, but the room has. And only now, in the quiet, do the words arrive. The thing I wanted to say. The thing I should have said. The thing I knew the whole time but could not get past my mouth. It is sharp now. Almost embarrassing in how clear it is. The exact sentence. The exact tone. The exact moment in the conversation where it could have fit. I always know what I wanted to say after the room has gone quiet. Every time. Every important conversation. Every almost said thing. The words arrive after the audience has left, with a precision they refused while anyone was still there. I used to think this was a small failure. A glitch. A timing problem. Maybe I just needed to be quicker, braver, less afraid of the other person's face. But the words kept arriving the same way. Always after. Always too late. Always in a room that no longer had anyone to hear them. And the cup keeps cooling. And the door stays closed. And the sentence stays inside me, finished but undelivered, like a letter that found its envelope 10 minutes after the post had gone. I open the message. I close it again. I have written the same sentence 4 different ways. I keep deleting and starting over. The sentence I most need to send keeps becoming the sentence I most cannot send. So I send, "I'm okay," instead. And then I sit there knowing that I am not. This happens with the most important people. The ones I love most. The friend who has been waiting for me to be honest. The parent I have wanted to forgive. The person I never thanked properly. The person I never said goodbye to in the way I meant. The easier words leave me first. The smaller words leave me first. The polite words leave me first. The words that actually matter, those stay. And a question arrived. Not loud. Not new. One I had been carrying without ever saying it plainly to myself. Why can't I say what I most need to say? It was not a question about courage. I have been brave about smaller things. I have spoken up in worse rooms. It was something else. Some words are not afraid of the listener. Some words are afraid of being out in the air. I once heard a small story about a postman. He worked a long route in a small valley town. He knew every door. He knew which gate stuck, which dog barked, which window was always open in the afternoon. He had carried the news of births, deaths, illnesses, and small ordinary letters for over 30 years. There was one letter he could not deliver. It had been written by a woman in the town who had since left. She had handed it to him before she went, and asked him to bring it to a house on the far edge of the valley, on the day she chose. She had told him the day. The day had come. He had walked the route. The house was there. The door was there. He knew exactly which doorway to slide the envelope under. He stood at that door for a long time. Then he turned around and went home. He did this for the next day. And the next. Years passed. The letter stayed in his bag. He aged. The town aged. The woman who had written it never returned. The person it was addressed to grew old too. The letter went with him on his route, every day, like a small weight he had agreed to carry without telling anyone. When people in the town asked him why he never seemed lighter, he said only this. I know the way to that door. I have known the way for 30 years. The thing I do not know is what becomes of the world after I knock. It was not the address that had stopped him. It was the future the letter would change. A letter is a small thing. But sometimes a letter is the door between two versions of a life, and someone has to be willing to open that door for the people on both sides of it. Some letters are heavy because of the world that will arrive once they land. For a long time, I gave my silence smaller names. I said I was shy. That was the first name. I had been called shy as a child. The word made the silence feel like a personality trait, something the room had already decided about me, so I did not need to ask anything more of it. Then I called it being polite. That was the second name. Polite is a respectable silence. It keeps things smooth. It keeps the other person comfortable. I told myself I was being considerate, when really I was keeping the room arranged the way I had been taught to arrange rooms. Then I called it being slow. That was the third name. I said the words just took longer to arrive in me. I told myself I was a thoughtful person, the kind who needed time. I told myself this with the cup cooling in front of me, the way I used to tell myself I was just bad at goodbyes. Then I called it being sensitive. That was the fourth name. I said the words were so heavy I had to wait until I could carry them without breaking. Sensitive was the kindest name. It almost let me off. But the silence kept its shape across all of them. Maybe none of them were the right name. Maybe the words I could not say were not stuck because I was shy, or polite, or slow, or sensitive. Maybe they were stuck because they were heavy in a way none of those words knew how to describe. A quiet answer came. Not from above. Not from outside. From the part of me that doesn't usually speak first. Maybe some words are heavy because they have been waiting too long. The room you had to say them in is no longer the room you are in. The version of you who first felt them is no longer the version of you who would have to deliver them. The person they were for may not even be the same person anymore. A word that was meant for a Tuesday 5 years ago does not become a Wednesday word. It becomes a different weight. Maybe the silence is not the absence of the feeling. Maybe the silence is the shape the feeling took when it had no Tuesday left. A second quiet answer arrived, smaller, almost beside the first. Unspoken is not the same as unfelt. Sometimes the silence is the bigger sentence. I sat with that one for a long time. The unsaid had not been a vacancy. It had been a fullness. Every word I had not delivered was still in the room I had been carrying around inside me, taking up the space it would have taken if I had said it. Which meant the silence was not nothing. The silence was the long form of the thing I could not shorten enough to send. I once heard another small story. There was a woman who ran a small restaurant on a street that did not get many people. She was the kind of cook who remembered what every regular ordered, and who set down the plate with a quiet hand. She did not talk much. The food talked for her. There was one regular she had grown fond of in a way she did not have a word for. A man who came in alone, sat at the same corner, ate slowly, and read a small book. They had nodded at each other for years. He had never asked her anything personal. She had never asked him. One evening she learned he was leaving the town. He came for his last meal. He ate slowly, the same as always. He finished his book. He set the chopsticks down. He looked at her, and she looked at him, and she meant to say something. She had been preparing the sentence for weeks. Just 2 words. Just thank you. But the kitchen was busy, and the next table called for tea, and the moment passed, and he stood up, and he paid, and he bowed slightly, and he left. She heard the door close behind him. And only then, with the restaurant empty and the chopsticks still on his plate, did the words arrive in her mouth. She said them anyway. She said them to the empty chair. Quietly. Without performance. Like a small candle she was lighting for a room that already had no one in it. She did not feel foolish. She felt, instead, like she had finally finished a sentence that had been waiting in her throat for years. Some sentences arrive late. That does not make them lies. It only means the heart was still finding its way to its own mouth. And then something turned. I had been carrying the unsaid sentences as if they were addressed only to other people. As if the silence was a failure of delivery. As if there was a list of recipients somewhere, waiting for the postman in me to finally bring their letter. But sitting in the quiet room with the cup cooled and the door closed, I realized something simpler. The words had not only been waiting for them. Maybe I was not only afraid they would hear it. Maybe I was afraid I would hear myself say it. Because to say a sentence aloud is to admit you are the kind of person who would say a sentence like that. And some sentences carry a version of you that you have not finished becoming yet. The sentence was not only waiting for them. It was waiting for me to become someone who could survive saying it. A third quiet answer came, with the calm of something already known and only now noticed. The unsaid is not always a debt to someone else. Sometimes it is a self the silence is still rehearsing. The postman in the story had walked that route for 30 years not because the address was wrong. He had walked it because every day he was practicing the version of himself who could one day knock. Some of us are still walking that route. That is not failure. That is rehearsal. Then one last quiet answer came. I did not delete the unsent message. I left it in the draft folder. I left the conversation alone. I did not force the sentence out. I did not promise to send it tomorrow. I did not turn the silence into a project. I just let the unsaid keep its shape, the way you let a room hold a chair even when no one is sitting in it. I once heard someone say it more simply, in the kind of voice an old friend uses when you are tired. Not every silence is empty. Some silences are full. Some silences are the slow weight of something the heart has not yet finished saying to itself. Maybe the words I never said were not proof that I felt nothing. Maybe they were proof that something in me was still trying to speak gently. The cup has long since cooled. The room is still quiet. The unsaid is still in the room with me. And I am beginning to think, slowly, that this is allowed. That a person can carry an unsent sentence the way they carry a song they hum without lyrics. That silence is not always the absence of love. Sometimes silence is love still looking for its own mouth. The words I could not say did not disappear. They became the soft hum I am still living inside. And somehow, still, that has begun to feel like enough. A quiet answer. Cross-reference. Not every silence is empty. Some silences are full. Some silences are the slow weight of something the heart has not yet finished saying to itself. A quiet answer. End of file.